Esther hid with the bags inside the bathroom stall of a small restaurant. Hopefully that would keep her safe while I took the rest of our money to buy provisions. There were only two things I wanted: food and medical supplies. Because of rations, I couldn't buy much of either without raising suspicions. But with enough trips to various markets and a small stack of forged ration cards, I gradually obtained a good stockpile. I imagined the ghetto had very few bandages or bottles of aspirin and rubbing alcohol. For food, I concentrated on what could be eaten quickly, assuming that a fight was coming and no one had time to prepare a meal. I bought dried meat that I hoped was kosher, although I could hardly ask about them, pierogies, and even some pastries that might raise the spirits of fighters who could only see a bleak future. A jelly-filled paczki would go a long way towards reminding them that life still offered good things, or I hoped it would, and not because life was easy or happiness was guaranteed, or because we had any chance of waking up to find all of our problems were over. No, life offered good things because life itself is good, and whether I had a days left or months or years, I wanted to make the most of every moment. And with that thought, I couldn't return to Esther fast enough, ready to join the fight. Together, we stepped out of the restaurant, but almost instantly she froze, her eyes locked on a woman ahead of us. The woman became equally still, her face a virtual beacon of fear. My first thought was a question, wondering why these two should be wary of each other as strangers. But that was my answer. They weren't strangers at all. The woman must be Jewish, attempting to disguise herself as Polish, much like I did. But she clearly was not prepared to see someone she knew, nor was Esther. Their standoff was already drawing attention our way. People even moved around them, no doubt whispering to one another about the uneasy exchange. The woman broke from her trance with a start and marched over to Esther with her hands on her hip. "How dare you?" she hissed. "How dare you show your face back here? Your parents got what they deserved. So will you." I put my body between the woman and Esther, keeping my eyes fierce and locked on the woman's face. "Walk away now, or we're all dead." I refused to look away until she finally took a step back. But she said, "We wouldn't defend her if you wouldn't defend her if you knew the truth." "I'll defend her until my last breath, because she's my friend. Now go." The woman smiled and stepped back. "Stick with her, and your last breath will come soon enough." Once I was sure the woman was gone, I turned and pushed Esther into an alley behind the restaurant. Tears welled in her eyes, but I had no sympathy this time. "You're from Warsaw?" I tried to keep my voice low, but anger seeped through every syllable. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was going to. I didn't know how." "That was a fine way to find out. Who was that woman? What did she mean that my parents got what they deserved? Are they dead then? Who is she, Esther? Who are your parents?" Esther looked back, then tilted her head toward the right. About 5 blocks that direction was my home, where I grew up. It was all lost in a blitzkrieg on the same day my brother was killed. Suddenly, it was just me and my parents. We had nothing else in the world. My voice softened. "I can't imagine what that felt like." She offered a grim smile. "Yes, you can. I'm not the only one anything happened to, remember? My father was offered a position on the Judenrat," she quickly added. "I know you don't trust all of them. You don't trust any of them, Chaya, and I understand why. But my father believed it was the only chance we had to survive." I did understand that much. If he's Judenrat, shouldn't you have been protected? We were, until the action last summer. The head of the Judenrat killed himself rather than provide the Germans with a list of deportations. The responsibility of creating the list passed to my father, but he made 2 agreements first. The first was with Zob. My father would keep resistance members off the list if they agreed to smuggle me out of the ghetto. That's how you met Dolek? I said. Then he brought you to Krakow? Yes. I asked to join the resistance, to thank the people who helped me escape the ghetto, and to make up for the names my father put on the list instead, such as the family of the woman we just saw. Her voice broke. I'm only alive because the woman's family was on the list. A beat passed. Then your father made 2 bargains. The second was with the Germans. He refused to provide names for a death camp, so they agreed to deport the people to another ghetto to help with the overcrowding here. Loads. I barely breathed at the word, then shook my head in disbelief. That's why you apologized after we left. We never had orders to go there. You took us to Loads to see if the Germans had kept their promise. You decided we'd go there. Esther, you lied to me. I had to know. A few days ago, you told me how much worse Yitzhak's disappearance is because you'll never know what happened to him. That's how I felt. Only instead of 1 person, it was thousands. And how many more died in the action we started because you wanted to settle your conscience? I didn't know that would happen, and I sincerely hoped we could help whoever was there. I'm sorry, Shia. What about here? Did we ever have orders to come here? Yes, we do, I swear it. I turned away, furious and failing in my attempt not to let it show. Barely under her breath, she whispered, I think my parents are dead. Her lower lip quivered, but she couldn't cry here. Our hushed conversation was already getting second looks from passerbys. I was angry with her and heartbroken for her and completely unsure of what to do now except to get us both off the streets. I hoisted my bag again, keeping my tone firm. Can you get us into the ghetto? She nodded, brushing away a single escaped tear. I can. Then nothing else matters right now. Get us inside. The ghetto was located near the center of Warsaw, close to the Vistula River, but with no access to the water. It encompassed a 3.5-kilometer area with a footbridge connecting 2 halves, allowing a streetcar to pass underneath. The ghetto's brick walls were 3 meters tall and lined on top with barbed wire. As we approached, I saw where holes might have once been dug beneath the walls for children to escape and returned with their smuggled food. These children knew which market owners left old fruit in an easily stolen pile behind their shops, or which housewives pretended to cool bread beneath an unwatched windowsill. But these holes were filled now, and the bricks were replaced. What if your way in doesn't exist anymore? I asked Esther. It does. At about the time I left, they began shrinking the ghetto boundaries. Some of the former area was given back to the Poles for their occupation. The rest is supposed to be abandoned, uninhabited. What do you mean, supposed to be? They're considered the wild areas. No one is allowed there, but there are plenty of places for people to hide. How do they survive? She shrugged. How do any of us survive these days? We should be able to get into the wild after it's dark, then make our way through the buildings until we cross into the ghetto. I didn't understand how that was possible, but she was asking me to trust her. Given what I'd just learned about her history, I knew how foolhardy that was. But what other choice did I have? Tonight, she said, we go in tonight, for the last time.